What is going on, Governors? Chisgule here, and today I want to talk about the biggest winners from the expertise update, the commanders that, relative to all the other commanders out there, got the biggest boost. Now, before I get into it, I want to shout out to Jamie from the Rise of Civilizations Discord. He is a mod there, and he and I had a really in-depth conversation about this topic. Really appreciate his spending time with me today on that. So with all that said, let me give you a quick refresher on what the expertise skill is before we talk about who, in my opinion, is the top 3 winners for the expertise skill. So the expertise skill is a new skill that becomes available when you max out the other 4 skills that that commander has. That means you have to take all 4 other skills to level 5. And this is only available to epic and legendary commanders, and of course it's unique to each commander. Each one has a different expertise skill. Now, there were a bunch of commanders that got really awesome updates that I want to talk about before I give you my top 3. Now, in the honorable mention category, I want to give a shout out to Cleopatra, who now receives additional resource packs after she finishes gathering and resource points on the map. This is something you are already doing with Cleopatra, and it makes her even better at it, which is awesome. Another commander that I thought got a really cool update is Sun Tzu. His skill does extra damage, which of course is great, and in addition, he can now hit 2 more targets. So before he could hit 3 targets, now he can hit 5 targets, doing damage to each, and making the next attack against the target do extra damage, and he gets 50 rage for each target hit. Now that is significant because now he can hit 5 targets, which means he could theoretically get 100 more rage. There is just one small problem with saying this is one of the biggest winners in the expertise skill update, and that is because I can count the number of times I could hit 5 targets in a fan-shaped area on one hand, and that number, my friends, is 0. And yes, this might be good in Expedition. I would say that the hardest Expedition nodes typically have one legendary commander anyways, not groups of commanders. So I would say that he is an awesome honorable mention, but probably not one of the biggest winners. Now, also worthy of sort of an honorable mention is commanders like Kusunoki, who increase damage of a specific type of unit. Now, the reason I like an expertise skill that does something like this is that it makes the commander even better at something they were already good at and focused on. And something I'll probably explain in a later video is the idea of min-maxing, where you want to have a character that's really, really good at one thing and bad at everything else so that they can do that one thing exceptionally well. So commanders that got a boost to archers or cavalry or infantry, I think generally made out pretty well, but don't make my top 3. Now, on the idea of min-maxing, I want to briefly talk about our friend Lohar. Poor Lohar. While all of the expertise skills give every commander a bit of a boost, he gets double the effectiveness of Unyielding Spirit, which heals some of the slightly wounded units upon leaving a battle. And the thing is that I think this is only helpful if you're jumping around from Barbarian Pack to Barbarian Pack, which you might do sometimes, but is it all that important? I'm still excited to be unlocking this expertise skill whenever the next Lohar event comes around, but I was sort of hoping it would be a little more punchy and might make up for the fact that otherwise he really is focused solely on fighting barbarians. So, all of that said, should we get into the top 3? Should we get into that top 3? Okay, one more honorable mention. It is probably worth calling attention to our friend Charles Martel. He gets a 5% boost to the infantry unit's defense, health boost by additional 5%, and march speed by 20%. I really like this. But my top 3 are as follows. In third, we have a healer who is phenomenal at supporting. You very likely guessed it from that introduction, and that is Joan of Arc. I mentioned earlier that I like commanders that focus in on one thing and do it incredibly well, and although she has a gathering talent, her expertise skill makes her an even better healer. And an even better support commander, I suppose. It actually doesn't have to do with healing. This skill boosts infantry, cavalry, archers, all of them, and grants rage. And now it goes from lasting 2 seconds to lasting 4 seconds. And instead of giving 40 rage, it gives 50 rage per second. This means that she will be giving an additional 120 rage, over the duration of the ability when her expertise skill is unlocked. And I am really eager to see a situation where you have many armies together from your alliance, and multiple Joan of Arcs are sort of casting these skills. I don't think they stack on top of each other, but if one casts it and their buff falls off, and then another one casts it, I think you could basically have these buffs continuously, and that seems really, really strong. Number 2 in my list of those who make out the best from this expertise update is a legendary commander who got a brand new skill, who is not actually available to many of us. I'm on a very young kingdom. It's not available yet, and that is Richard I. Now, Richard I, in addition to increasing damage dealt to cavalry units and decreasing damage taken from cavalry units, he now has a 100% chance to decrease the march speed of your target by 50%. 50%. This is really powerful because if you are going toe-to-toe with Richard I and it's not going well, I'm sorry, my friend, but you are not getting away. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is only his normal attacks, not his counterattacks, but I still think that's pretty good for singling out a unit and making sure it cannot escape from battle. Now, the number one choice, in my opinion, is a legendary commander. Makes out the best by a long shot, I would say, and it took a couple reads for me to figure this out. This unit is exceptionally strong with cavalry, and that is Cao Cao. Cao Cao gets a 25% boost to attack damage. That's right, you heard me correctly, 25%! But to get that much damage boost, it does come with a downside, which is that it decreases the troop defense by 10%. So, on the idea of min-maxing, which I was explaining a little bit earlier, where you want a unit to be exceptionally good at some things, and it's okay if they're weaker at others, this skill is perhaps the example of what I would want to do with a min-maxed unit. This to me says that Cao Cao is intended to be in a hard-hitting unit that is not trying to take damage in return. A sort of sniper unit that moves in really, really fast, hits hard, and gets out of the way before it gets focused down. In my opinion, this was the biggest gain in terms of quality of an expertise skill. With all that said, who do you think was the biggest winner in today's expertise update patch? I am excited about these outcomes, and I am eager to hear your feedback in the comments. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to me as a new content creator. And until next time, my friends, have fun smashing the kingdom.